Listen to this every morning for 20 minutes. Money works out for you today. Neville Goddard. Neville Goddard taught that the money you have been waiting on is already yours the very moment you stop waiting and start assuming. And something in you has known this for a long time, even while your bank app has tried to tell you otherwise. In the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 8, verse 18, it is written, "Remember the Lord thy God, for it is he that giveth thee power to get wealth." And Neville would stop you right there and ask you gently, do you see it? The Lord thy God is not a distant figure keeping your money from you, or granting it to you on a whim. The Lord thy God is your own wonderful human imagination, your own I am. The very awareness reading these words right now, and it is this imagination inside you, not your employer, not the economy, not the numbers on a screen, that gives you the power to get wealth. So many of you have been asking an outside world for what only your own assumption can deliver, and that is the open loop we are going to close together this morning. So before we go further, let us claim it now, together, in the present tense. As though it is already so, say it with me. I am calm about money. I am provided for in ways I cannot yet trace. Imagination creates my reality. And again, I am calm about money. I am provided for in ways I cannot yet trace. Imagination creates my reality. If something in you just went quiet as you said that, good. That quiet is the beginning of knowing, so before we go into the keys, type the words "it's done" in the comments below, not as a wish, not as a hope, but as a seal on what you have just assumed. Let those two words be your signature on a check already written within. The first key is this. Money is not something you chase, it is a state you occupy. You have spent years running after dollars as though they were a wild animal that must be caught, and Neville taught plainly that you do not get anything by chasing it in the outer world, you get it by assuming the state of the wish fulfilled and letting that state, not your feet, do the running. Think of the person who is simply relaxed about money, unbothered, unhurried, who somehow always has what is needed exactly when it is needed. That is not luck, that is a state they live in, and states are not chosen once, they are entered the way you enter a room, and once you are standing in the room called, I already have enough, the outer world has no choice but to rearrange itself to match the room you are standing in. Picture the ordinary version of chasing, the one so many of you know by heart. You refresh the banking app before you have even sat up. You check the mail hoping the check finally came. You glance at your phone all afternoon waiting for the client to confirm the payment. You run, and the running itself becomes the proof to your own mind that money is somewhere out there, distant, separate from you, something to be pursued and possibly missed, and the more you run, the more you confirm the very distance you are trying to close. Now picture instead a woman who owes the exact same bills, sits at the exact same desk, and yet does not run. She simply carries a quiet, inward knowing that she is provided for. She does not check the app 4 times an hour. She does not need to. Because she is not looking for evidence outside herself, she has already taken up residence inside the feeling of having, and life, strangely, keeps agreeing with her. This is the whole secret hiding in plain sight. It is not the reaching that brings money closer. Reaching only proves you believe it is far. It is the resting in the state of already possessing it that closes the distance. So this very morning, before your feet touch the floor, before your hand finds your phone, you are going to enter that room on purpose. You are going to lie still and feel, quietly and without strain, that you are the one for whom money works out today, not tomorrow, not someday, today, and you will let that feeling be the first thought you dress yourself in. Because it is not the world that must change first. It is you who must stand in a different place within yourself, and from that new place say with quiet certainty, I am the one for whom money works out today. The second key is this. Your yesterdays are still writing your today, unless you go back and change them. Neville called this revision. And it is one of the gentlest and most practical tools he ever gave, because you cannot undo an event, but you can undo its hold on you by living it again differently in imagination. And most people never think to question this. They treat the past as a locked door, finished, unchangeable, filed away. But Neville taught that the past is only fixed in the outer world, in the inner world. In the world of feeling where your assumptions actually live, the past is as movable as clay in warm hands. Think of the moment yesterday when you looked at a bill and felt that small drop in your stomach. That feeling did not stay in yesterday. It rode along with you into today. It is sitting quietly under your skin right now, shaping what you expect to find in your account. And here is the part most people miss entirely. That feeling is not a memory. It is a living seed, still planted, still growing, still bearing fruit in your present circumstances, even though the event itself is long over. So tonight, or even right now in this quiet moment, close your eyes and go back to that scene. But this time see the bill and feel nothing but ease. See yourself opening it and paying it without a flicker of concern. See the number and feel gratitude instead of dread. Imagine even the small, ordinary details. The paper in your hand, the pen, the calm, unhurried breath you take before writing the check. Because the more real the revised scene feels, the more deeply it replaces the original. This is not pretending the bill never came. It is refusing to let its wrong feeling remain the seed you are growing your future from. And consider, too, the sharp word exchanged with a coworker over money, the awkward moment asking for a raise, the embarrassment of a card declined at a register. Every one of these can be walked back through gently, not erased, but repainted, given a new ending, a calmer face, a steadier voice. Because it is not the past event that holds power over your money. It is the feeling you sealed it with, and you are allowed to reseal it as many times as it takes. Neville taught that revision, practiced faithfully, does not merely comfort you, it actually changes the trajectory of tomorrow, because tomorrow is only yesterday's feeling grown a little older. So each morning before you check anything, and each evening before you sleep, spend a few unhurried minutes revising the day's financial worry into the day's financial peace, walking back through the tight moment and softening it, and watch how strangely light your days begin to feel over time, because you are no longer building on top of yesterday's fear. You are building on top of a scene you have quietly and lovingly corrected. And from that corrected ground you can say, I revise the story of lack and money answers. The third key is this, and it is the reason this teaching asks you to listen for 20 minutes each morning rather than simply repeating a line while you brush your teeth. There is a state Neville called the state akin to sleep, a drowsy, low receptive place where the conscious mind loosens its grip and imagination is free to impress itself directly on feeling, and money, more than almost anything else, responds to impressions made from this deep and drowsy place. Because your fretting about money happens in the loud, wide-awake mind, but your true assumption about money lives much deeper than that. So let us walk through what this actually looks like on an ordinary day. You wake, and the very first pull you feel is toward your phone, toward the banking app, toward the tally of what is and is not there. And if you follow that pull, you spend the next 10 minutes wide awake and afraid, feeding a hungry mind with more evidence of lack. And that fed mind carries its hunger into the shower, into the commute, into the meeting, and by evening you wonder why the day felt so heavy. And this happens morning after morning without you ever noticing that you have been training yourself, quite faithfully, to expect less. But here is the other way. You wake, and before you reach for the phone you stay exactly where you are, still warm, still drowsy, eyes closed, and here you deliberately drop into that low, sleepy, half-dreaming state, the same soft edge you feel just before sleep takes you at night, or just before it releases you in the morning. And Neville taught that this narrow, drowsy margin is not empty time to be rushed past. It is the most fertile soil you will touch all day. And in this state, you do not think about money in sentences. You feel it in one soft, warm sensation, the sensation of ease, the sensation of already having what you need. Perhaps you imagine your hand closing around an amount you have been praying for. Perhaps you hear, faintly, the specific words someone would say to you if the money had already come. A simple congratulations, a quiet "it is done." Perhaps you simply feel the specific relief of a solved problem settling into your chest, the way warmth settles into cold hands. You do not strain for it, you barely reach for it. Straining actually pulls you back up out of the very state you are trying to sink into. So instead, you let it settle over you the way sleep settles over a tired body, uninvited, unforced, simply arriving because you stopped resisting it. And you stay there in that felt assumption for the better part of 20 unhurried minutes, not performing it, not checking whether it is working, just resting in it the way you would rest in a warm bath with no thought of getting out. Think of it this way. If you spent 10 minutes wide awake feeding fear this morning, you can just as easily spend 20 minutes half asleep feeding certainty. The clock does not care which one you choose. Only your attention decides which seed gets planted deepest. And Neville taught that an impression made in this drowsy state sinks in far deeper and holds far longer than any thought manufactured in the wide-awake mind, because in sleep, and almost out of sleep, the reasoning mind has less power to argue with you. It cannot list your bills to you. It cannot remind you of last month. It is too drowsy to object. And this is precisely why the practice belongs to the morning, and why it must not be hurried. You are not reciting a hope to a skeptical mind. You are sinking an assumption down into the very soil from which your entire day grows. The way a farmer does not scatter seed on top of hard ground and call it planted. He waits for soft ground. He opens it, and only then does the seed take. Your drowsy morning mind is that soft ground. So this week, before you reach for the phone, before the day's noise finds you, give it those unhurried minutes, and from that soft, sunk-in, half-sleeping place you can say quietly, in sleep and out of sleep, I remain rich. The fourth key is this: money follows self-concept before it ever follows effort. And this is the part so many people quietly resist because it feels almost too simple, too near, too much like it was always available and nobody told them. Picture two people doing the exact same job, same hours, same paycheck on paper. One of them privately believes, underneath all the polite conversation, that money is hard to keep, that something always comes up right when it is finally getting ahead, that they are simply the type of person things slip through the fingers of, and the other privately believes, just as quietly, without ever announcing it, that they are the type of person money finds a way to reach, that things simply work out for them, not because they are smarter, not because they try harder, but because that is simply who they have quietly decided they are. Watch these two over a year, and you will not find identical lives, because self-concept is the invisible architecture the whole outer structure is built on, and Neville taught that self-concept is not a fact about you. It is only a garment you have been wearing so long you forgot it could be changed like any other garment. Think of someone standing at a checkout counter, watching the total climb, and feeling that small, familiar tightening in the chest. That tightening did not arrive because of the number. It arrived because of an old, inherited sentence running quietly underneath. A sentence learned long ago at a kitchen table where money was spoken of as something that runs out, something scarce, something that must be guarded and feared. And that sentence has been standing at every checkout counter since, dressed up as caution. But really, it is only costume. So this week, notice one sentence you say about yourself concerning money without even thinking, I am always short, I never get ahead, I am not good with money, and catch it exactly once, gently, without shame, the way you would catch a coat slipping off someone's shoulder. And quietly, deliberately, without arguing or explaining, set it down, and for a few seconds, right there, in the ordinary middle of your day, live instead as the one for whom money works out. Feel the ease of that identity settle over you the way a different coat would settle over you, because it is not effort that is the missing ingredient in your life. It is identity, and once identity shifts, effort simply follows it home the way a shadow follows a body without ever being told to, I am wealth appearing as myself. If this teaching has touched something in you, let it keep reaching you. Subscribe now so the next key finds you before you need it. The fifth key is this, and it is the deepest one, so let us walk it slowly. In pieces, the way you would walk down a long, quiet hallway with several doors, each one opening into a room you thought had always been locked. First, consider that everyone connected to your money, the client who pays late, the employer who signs your check, the relative who owes you, the stranger who overcharges you, every single one of them is you pushed out. Neville taught this plainly, that the world and its people are a mirror of your own assumptions, wearing different faces, and this is not meant to make you responsible in a guilty way. It is meant to hand you your power back. Picture the woman who owns the small bakery at the end of your street, up before 4 every morning, flour on her hands before the sun is even awake. And yet every few months her landlord finds some new reason to raise the rent a little more. She has told the story so often that her friends can finish it for her. The landlord is unfair. The landlord always finds her exactly when she is stretched thinnest. The landlord is simply how the world treats people who are building something good. And Neville would ask her gently, and he is asking you just as gently now, whose voice are you really hearing in that landlord? Because he did not wander into her life uninvited. He is the outpicturing of a private assumption she has carried quietly since she was young, that whatever she builds will always be taken from her a little at a time, and she does not need to argue with him, or confront him, or negotiate harder. She only needs to go within and assume a new relationship with what she has built, to assume that what she builds is hers to keep, to assume ease exactly where she has always assumed strain, and slowly, without one single conversation about it, the outer arrangement begins to bend. Sometimes the very same landlord softens on his own, sometimes he simply exits her life, and someone kinder takes his place. Because it was never truly about him, it was about her. And consider, too, the friend who always seems to forget their share of the bill, the customer who quietly disputes a charge that was always fair, the sibling who borrows with easy promises and repays with excuses. None of them are separate stories. They are the same story told through different faces. All of them rehearsing back to you some quiet private belief you have carried about what you are allowed to keep. So pause for a moment and pick one real person circling your money right now. Someone who unsettles you a little whenever their name comes up. And instead of rehearsing what they did, ask quietly within, what have I been assuming about myself that needed a face like this to prove it true? Because it is the same for you as it was for her. The specific faces circling your money this week are simply your own assumption wearing coats and names. And the moment something shifts quietly in you, they must shift in front of you, not because you have manipulated a single soul, but because a mirror cannot keep holding a reflection that no longer stands before it. Second, consider the bank statement itself, that small glowing number that feels like the most solid fact in your entire life. Neville taught that the visible world is only the harvest of an invisible planting. So think of a farmer walking his field in the middle of June, the soil bare, no green yet breaking the surface. And if he kneels down and weeps because the field is empty, he has simply confused the season for the truth. The seed is already growing beneath what his eyes can measure. It is only a matter of time revealing what was already decided the day it was planted. Your statement works the exact same way. The number sitting there today is not a verdict on your future. It is only a slow report on a feeling you planted weeks or months ago. And this means the anxious message from a client, the overdue notice sitting unopened on the counter, the sudden repair bill that seems to appear from nowhere. None of these are new information about you. They are simply late mail, old planting finally arriving at your door. So when you open that app this week, and perhaps the number has not moved the way you hoped, notice the old habit rising in you. The habit of letting that number decide what you are allowed to feel next, and instead, gently refuse it. Look at the number plainly, without flinching and without arguing with it, and then deliberately return to the feeling of the wish already fulfilled, regardless of what that screen is currently reporting. This is what Neville meant by living in the end, not living in the current appearance. And it takes a quiet, private courage, the courage to feel wealthy while looking directly at a small number. Because that number is not lying to you. It is simply old news. It is last month's planting finally coming due. and it has no authority whatsoever over what you plant today. The farmer does not argue with the bare field either. He simply keeps tending what he cannot yet see, trusting the harvest he has not yet been shown. Third, consider persistence, because one warm morning of feeling rich will start the current moving, but it will not carry the whole distance alone. Neville taught that you must remain faithful to an assumption until it hardens into fact, the way a photograph left resting in developing solution, slowly, patiently, comes into full, clear view, and there will be a day this week, maybe even today, when a contrary appearance shows up right on schedule to test you. The car making a strange new sound, an invoice arriving heavier than expected, a friend repeating some grim thing they heard about the economy, and in that exact moment you will feel the old pull to drop your assumption and pick the appearance up instead. And this is the whole key turning on its hinge. Because you are not asked to defeat the appearance. You are not asked to argue with the mechanic, or the invoice, or your worried friend. You are simply asked to remain where you have already decided to stand. And notice too that the appearance will almost always arrive wearing the voice of reason. It will sound sensible, practical, even responsible. It will tell you that now is exactly the wrong moment to feel calm, and this is precisely why so many quietly abandon their assumption at the very door of its fulfillment, mistaking the last small test for a final verdict. But the lamppost standing on an empty street does not fight the wind, it does not argue with the dark, it simply stays lit while the wind passes, and stays lit again the next night and the next, until the street itself simply becomes known as the lit one. The sixth key is this, and it is simply an invitation to come back tomorrow, because one morning of feeling rich will start something, but it is the returning, day after unhurried day, that lets the assumption set the way morning light slowly fills a room. Neville taught that persistence is not struggle, it is simply loyalty to a feeling you have already chosen, and loyalty, unlike willpower, does not need to be dramatic to be real. Think of a candle left burning on a windowsill through a long night. No one stands over it, forcing it to burn. It simply keeps giving the same small, steady light, hour after hour. And by morning it has quietly outlasted the whole dark. That is what your assumption is meant to be. Not a blaze you work up once and exhaust yourself maintaining, but a small, steady flame you simply tend. So tomorrow morning, and the morning after that, you are going to lie still again for those same 20 quiet minutes. Sink again into that same drowsy, low, receptive place. Feel again the ease of money already worked out, and on some mornings it will feel rich and full and easy, and on other mornings it will feel dry, almost mechanical, as though nothing is happening at all. And this is exactly where most people quit, right at the dry morning, because they mistake the absence of a thrill for the absence of power. But consider the woman who waters a garden every single morning before the sun is even fully up. Some mornings she feels moved and hopeful doing it. Other mornings she is tired and simply goes through the motion out of habit, and the plant does not ask her which mood she watered it in. It only knows that water came, again and again and again. Your assumption is exactly like that plant. It does not need you to feel thrilled each morning. It only needs you to keep showing up with the same feeling of money already worked out, whether that morning feels vivid or quiet, whether you feel inspired or simply faithful. So let today be the last day you judge your practice by how exciting it felt, and let it become, instead, simply what you do, the way you brush your teeth, the way you lock the door, an assumption maintained not by force but by gentle, unbroken habit. And one ordinary morning, not a dramatic one, just an ordinary one, you will notice that the old worry did not show up at all, that you handled the day from a calm you did not have to manufacture, and that will be the quiet proof that money has already worked out for you today. So rest now in that. I persist, for it is already done. Here is the whole picture. Money is not gotten from without. It is assumed from within. It is not the world that supplies you. It is your own imagination, remembering that it always was the Lord thy God giving you power to get wealth. It is not chasing that brings money. It is occupying the state of already having it. It is not the past event that binds you. It is the unrevised feeling still riding inside it. It is not the wide-awake, striving mind that plants the deepest seed. It is the soft, drowsy place you visit each morning, where the impression sinks and holds. It is not effort that is missing from your life. It is identity. And once identity shifts, effort simply follows it home. It is not the people around your money who are withholding it. They are you pushed out, mirroring exactly what you have assumed. And it is not the number on the statement that has the final word. That word belongs to whatever you are feeling right now in this very moment. So you see, these were never 6 separate keys. They were 6 turns of the same single key. And that one key is simply this: you are not waiting on money. Money has been quietly waiting on you to remember who you are. So let this settle over you now, the way morning light settles over a room without asking permission. You have not been foolish for hoping. You have simply been reaching for the lever from the wrong side of the door. And now you know where the true lever has always been. Close, warm, breathing, right behind your own eyes. Say it with me one last time. I am calm about money. I am provided for in ways I cannot yet trace. Imagination creates my reality. And let that be enough for today, tomorrow morning, when you lie still for your 20 quiet minutes. Remember that you are not merely listening. You are assuming. And money will work out for you today, and tomorrow, and the morning after that, simply because you finally believed it was already so.